Here's the list of our top 10 roll and write or flip and write games ever. Stay tuned.
Hi, it's Tarrant.
And Stella here from Meeple University. Thank you for joining us today and welcome back to our channel. We are, it's been taking us quite a while now, but we finally decided on top 10 games of, especially with mechanic, roll and write or flip and write of ever, like.
Yeah, we're about 4 or 5 years into the rise in the hobby roll and write. So it's a good opportunity, I think, to look back and really see what has stood up over that time. Because there have been a lot of games come into this genre. There was a really big peak a couple of years ago. I think some have waned out, but yeah, I think these are the ones that stand up.
Indeed, and it might change. I mean, this is the 2021. Hang on.
2022.
2022 already. 2022 edition, which is January 2022 edition. Who knows, it might change, we might do it in a couple of years or so, but these are the top 10 that we both actually agreed on.
Yeah, so it's not an individual list. This is our collective top 10. And it's not an ordered list.
No, so it is in any order. Now, if you want to see our top 10 games of 2021, please check the link in the description below. We'll just leave it there if you want to check it out also. And this is something that's also overlapping. I won't say how many games. This is overlapping from roll and write and our top 10 games of 2021. Okay? Shall we start her?
How we'll order this, we'll start with a few games that I think are pretty broadly seen as the seminal classics of the genre, and maybe even really the ones which kicked off the boom. Mm-hmm. They weren't the first ones that came out necessarily, but they really kicked off the boom. And the first one is Welcome To.
It might be our first game ever of this genre.
Yeah, it would have been the first one for us. It was certainly the first I played that introduced what I call the bingo style of roll and write, where everyone plays the same number or the same set of choices. This one is with cards. I'll just say roll and write generically rather than
flip and write,
rather than add flip. But I think this remains a classic. It's a really well put together game. You're trying to run sequences of numbers on 3 separate streets, score some objectives, score some bonuses. There's different ways of scoring the bonuses, and it's just a really well put together game.
I remember the first time I played it, you weren't in it, you were watching the footy, which is an Australian football thing, which is big in Australia. If you're in Australia, you know what I'm talking about as well. And I played this with a bunch of friends, and that was the first time I got introduced to it. It was like, oh yeah, I've always wanted to play Welcome To, and I was like, it was mind-blowing. Because I was like, what is this? It's flip and write, and then you can play up to whatever players you want. My introduction to Welcome To and open up a can of worms, which is the good can of worms. Can of lollies.
Yeah, we've played an incredible number of games of this over the journey since we got it. It's been a very high count, probably one of our most played games.
So also, I know this is not at the end yet. Feel free to write a jump on the note. I think some people do that, and I appreciate that. Jump on the comment section below, and then tell us what you think about each game, perhaps that you like. You don't know, you haven't heard of, you have played as well, or your top 10 or your favorite of roll, flip and write games.
The next one, which I put in a very similar category. It's the same sort of bingo style of game, and it's just one of the classics of the genre, is Cartographers from Thunderworks. So this one it's the classic grid type of one. Mm-hmm. So that one's a number filling one. This one is a grid drawing type of one. And it does some really clever things in the way it scores. So 4 objectives, but you score only 2 of them each round, and it changes through the rounds. So that's kind of like the Isle of Skye type of scoring.
Also higher replayability in that way.
Yep. And it does a really clever thing with when the monster cards get drawn.
Yeah.
you give it to your neighbour and they put a monster in the most inconvenient location for you. I just think it's not a highly interactive game by any stretch, but it's just incredibly clever the way they do that to add a bit of interaction.
But that's one of the most interactive things in roll and write, because the nature of roll or flip and write are not very interactive, but this one adds to it.
Next one, or next two, I think this is the other. This is probably, we don't actually have the third one, I think, because there's 3 in the series now. But Ganz schön clever. Then its sequel, Doppelt so clever, and the third one, which I don't know the name, Dritter so clever or something like that. This one, so it's not a bingo style of one. And it's not really quite a draft one either. It's halfway in between, which is the lead and follow is what I'll tend to call it. So one player, when it's your active turn, you get a bunch of choices and you get the best things you can, and then what you leave behind is available for your opponents. And so it introduces that bingo element when it's not your turn, and it keeps everyone in the game, but it gives you some things to do on your active turn.
Indeed. And one of the satisfying feeling is when you try and able to combo one thing and give you another bonus, then give you another bonus.
Yeah, I think this is, while the two we just said before is an overall objective type of game, this one was really the first to me that introduced the track bonus, the comboing tracks and bonus type thing together. Almost everything you fill in will escalate, and as you get there, you'll get bonuses that will fill up on other tracks. And it's pretty much a staple of the track roll and write. And I couldn't say positively that this was the game that started it, but I think it was the first one. It was definitely the first one I found that did it, and it did it so extensively.
And spoiler, these two are not the only one that does it in our list.
Oh, of course not.
All right, next one, Tarrant. Oh, this is also
no theme at all.
No theme. Of course, but... And this is by Walk and Wash, which has been known for creating lots of wonderful games. Yeah. Did we even discuss what roll and write are, or do we not necessarily have to say it?
I don't think we have to say it anymore. I think it's so well known. Any game on pen and paper, ultimately.
Yeah, just like roll a dice and then write it on the paper, or flip a card and so on. All right, next one, Tarrant.
So I think those are, we got those 3 out of the way first because I think you'll see them on almost anybody's list. We're going to go with a few now that are similar sort of complexity.
One by one, yeah.
Similar sort of complexity, but lesser well-known, lesser types of things. So the first one...
You never know, baby.
Never know.
Yeah, I was like, did I say baby? I was trying to say baby. I was like, you never know when for some reason, the Castle of Burgundy is not lesser well-known. I'm pretty sure it's well-known, even in the dice game version.
Well, I think this is actually one of the earlier games of the boom. It predates the ones we just spoke about. It is the bingo style of games, so you will roll the 4 dice, I think it is, and those are common.
5?
Well, there's 5 because there's a timing die as well. You'll roll those, and then they'll be common to everyone, and you'll make your choice off.
Mm-hmm. It's very good when you have that difficult space decision. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, right? I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, right? When you don't know which one you want to take. You want to take this one, you want to engine build. There's a bit of an engine build as well in this one, which I like in roll and write and flip and write. It's a bit of an engine build, and you want to do this, or you want to just get the points. You want to get it right now. It has a very good elements, very good feeling of the Castle of Burgundy, the board game. So the Castle of Burgundy, the board games, has got that one, and then the dice game, which is this one, and that's got the card game. I think the dice game, the card game, I'm okay with it. I like the dice game and the board game better.
Yeah, and the Burgundy board game lends itself very well to this roll and write style.
Indeed.
Because it has all those different actions for the different hex types. It is a really natural fit to then go into this game and say, well, I can just cross this out and get an equivalent version of that action.
Indeed. All right, let's move on to the next one.
Super skill pin. Bleh,
Super skill pinball 4K.
Yes.
You say it. Yeah. See, this is I think last year's release, and it has expansion.
Yeah.
Might be even 2021 expansion, and this is the game that makes us play pinball more.
It makes me
understand more.
Yeah, it made me understand actual pinball machines more rather than just being an exercise of keep the ball from falling down. It actually is like, all right, well, I can actually sort of now see how different things on a pinball
It's true.
board will go together, and it's a very it's the most solitary of. I mean, it is essentially a solitaire game. There's no real interaction between players at all in this one. You're not chasing each other for objectives.
Like in Welcome to.
It's pure solo play, but it's really clever the way it happens. You'll move. It's 2 simple dice, 2d6s. Your ball will move from the top to the bottom. You make it strike the different point scoring things. It is dry erase, so unlike many of these where each mark is permanent, you are rubbing things out.
As part of mechanic of the game.
Yep. And then it will drop to the bottom, and then the flipper will send it back up, and which flipper it goes to depends which side it can go to. So it's just really clever, and it does represent those pinballs very well, I think.
Absolutely. I totally agree, and it comes with different board. Like the amount of boards that come out, the expansion, the limit is endless. You've got the basic one, the carnival one, you've got the one with the cyber one. That's probably my favorite.
Yeah, so there's Cyber Hack, there's a medieval Dragon Slayer one, there's Disco Fever, and they all just have these sub games inside. And I mean, to some extent, a little bit like a pinball game, and more than many of these other games, you're just kind of rolling the dice and trying to make things happen, and it's a little bit more random, but it's just kind of fun. It's a nice little solitaire activity.
I do agree. Trek 12.
Trek 12 came out about a year ago, and this is on the lighter end of the bingo style. It's a very clever way of using the dice. I think that was what struck me about it, and it was the first simple roll and write I'd played for a while, so I found it really striking.
It's simple rules, but then deeper decision. It is by Bruno Catala. I was like trying to squish Bruno Catala in one word, Bruno Catala.
Yeah. So no, what I really like here is you roll 2 dice, a d6 and a 0 to 5 d6, and then the number that you play, it can be the higher, the lower, the sum, the difference, or the product. But you can only use each of those 5 operators 4 times each over 19 turns.
Yeah.
And so you've got to pick your moments and make various chains and things around it, and you've got to pick your moments to use those operators. That's a very clever mechanic. And
not leaving often, and it has certain bonus that encourage people to not break the game, like the longest chain, rather than having like smaller scores for each chain and things like that, or zone. It has different map. I think the one that came with the game is like, I think 3 basic one. And then the fun thing is that then there are achievements envelopes. So whenever you achieve certain things, let's say like 7 number chain or something like that, and you get to open another envelope, and then it gives you a surprise, whether it's extra asymmetric power or something like that. We haven't opened all the envelopes. It also has the expansions already with different map and slightly different rules.
Yes.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, so a bit of a campaigny type thing in there. But yeah, very neat, very fun little game.
Indeed.
The next one, we don't have the box for this one, actually, so I'll just say it. The Copenhagen Roll and Write. So Copenhagen, it's a grid placement type of one. It takes the Gunshine Clever lead and follow style of things. So you roll colour dice, and the leader will place a shape based on those colours, and then the followers can use the colours that are left.
And there is that kind of like a retheme from the board game, Copenhagen board game.
Yeah, so it's each of the bonuses it's a track advancement type of one, and each step you go up on a track, you'll start to get different bonuses that allow you to do dice manipulation, and it's actually quite unforgiving in that way. That was what struck me about it. It was
you like mean game? No, I'm kidding.
Like you're rolling 5 dice that have one wild side and then 5 colours, and you're trying to get at least 3 of the same colour. And normally you don't get a reroll, and it is very punishing in that way. And that's where going up on these different tracks that give you different ways of getting around those penalties, around that tightness of the dice, is very interesting, I think.
Yep. You haven't played the board game yet, have you?
I never played the board game, no. I went straight into the dice game.
I played the board game a while back at a convention. I can't remember exactly. I remember enjoying it, but I probably would enjoy the roll and write version better.
Yeah. It's a very quick one, and it's a light one, but that is what it has different, is how punishing it is. Roll and writes are generally a bit light and fluffy, and everything that happens you can sort of do something and build up during the game.
That's actually true.
But not so on this one.
Not in Copenhagen roll and write. So, we kind of like thinking whether we get the Three Sisters version of Flip the Dice game. Now, for you probably have heard of Flip the Dice game, which is the roll and write version of Flip the board game, this is also by the same duo, Matt Pinchbeck. Let's say it right. Sorry, Ben Pinchbeck and Matt Riddles. I got the last name like got turned around. Yeah. The same duo that brought in Flip the Dice game, and it does feel a bit like Flip the Dice game, with slightly different twists.
Yeah, they're very similar engines, and it is a different style of game once again. It's a dice drafting one. I don't think we've actually had a pure dice drafting one here yet, so everyone will play the die they draft, and then what's left over gives you a second play. So, and there's a lot of roll and write games that are like that. But both this and Fleet the Dice game have a big upkeep element to them. You'll get these bonuses, and then you've got a lot of tracks you're trying to advance on, and if you do certain things at the right times, you'll advance on an ongoing basis. So in Fleet, it's when you activate a ship, then every time you go fishing, you get a fish on every ship. In this one, you are planting beans and planting corn, and then every time it rains, and pumpkins as well. Yep.
That's the Three Sisters, aka the 3 symbiotic plants.
Yep. And then every time you water that region, you cross another one off on all the ones you've already planted, or every time it rains, then you do that on all of them. And then you've got all these different bonuses that you can target that will give you extra points for certain things, or will give you extra benefits when you do upkeep or rain or things like that. And then you've got a goods track that, and this was consistent with Fleet as well. It's a different type of thing you're crossing off, and every time you cross off a star on that track, it lets you do an action anywhere. And so it gives you a lot of capability to get things going in the directions you want without being super limited by the dice. So
yes. And this is published by themselves, so rather than going through Eagle Griffin for Flip the Dice game, I believe. And this is just there on Motor City Games, I believe. I agree, we should play this again.
Yes. Yeah, we speak of them in the same breath because they are very similar styles of game. We do like this one a little bit more.
Yep.
We've got 2 more, and we're going into the heavier side of things now.
Indeed.
Many after the light medium boom, there were a number of medium to heavy ones produced, and so the 2 on the heavier side that we'll go for
is Dinosaur Island Roll and Write. So this is the roll and write version of Dinosaur Island, the board game, which was out a few years ago. So this is another one that was kind of like rethemed. I mean, why not? If the board game is popular, the board game version is popular, Like this one, even Rajas of the Ganges, it just didn't quite make it. It's almost made it to the list. And so this one, Dinosaur Island Roll and Ride, is the release of 2021, and you might look familiar with one of our top videos. Hint, hint.
Yes, that was certainly one of our favourites of 2021. It's more interactive than most because it has a dice drafting phase where you get those resources and everyone gets the spare resource. And it's also got a worker placement phase. There's a lot in here which is diverging a little bit from the classic roll and ride.
Yeah.
But it has some really nice things going on here. You've got a grid and you've got to build up things in your park. You've got different buildings that have end game objectives. You can spend coins on those. You can spend coins on specialists that give you ongoing bonuses. You need to build dinosaurs. And it's got quite a nice destructive mechanic with the security and threats and disasters.
Yeah.
So as with all the Dinosaur Island games, as you get more dinosaurs, you get more threat, and you've got to either build more security or risk having dinosaurs eat some of your guests and lose points and lose reputation or things like that. And in this one, it'll eat some guests and it will force you to cross some things out on your park.
It's kind of mitigating losses as well in the right way, managing it so that you get the benefit out of the penalties.
Yeah, so we've played this a few times and really enjoy it, and it's always been a good close game as well.
It's a good close game. It is. It's like 1 or 2 points difference, something like that. And not to mention the puns. So the cards, there are lots of cards. You can use it like 6 in the game, and lots to choose from. So lots of replayability, and some of them are really fun.
Yes.
Last one, but not least, and this is not by any order.
Yep, this is probably the heaviest of all. A release from early 2021 or late 2020, Hadrian's Wall.
Yes.
It has we have a video for this for the rules that is a half-hour video. You've got that many things that you can do in this game. Again, it takes itself away from the classic roll and ride a little bit because you're doing resource management. So at the start of each round, you're taking cards that will give you all the resources and workers and things that you've got for this round. And then you just go onto your sheet and you spend resources to take an action, and probably 2 out of 3 squares gives you at least one other icon or one other resource back.
Yeah.
And then you just keep going through, and you've got 6 rounds. There's 4 different types of victory points that you can chase from a thematic standpoint, and you're just trying to chain as much together in as effective a way as possible.
The heavy version of Ganshon.
Yep.
Ish.
Yep. After every round, there will be a random draw of Picts that will invade from the north, which was what Hadrian's Wall was built to protect. So part of the game is setting up protections for your village, for your society.
Castle, society.
And you need to hedge across all of those, and then suffer as few penalties as possible. Otherwise, you'll lose points for that while building up society. And so there's just so many different things going on here, and so many ways you can try to play and chain.
I think there was a kind of like a learning or training game, because I remember our scores were lower at the start when we first played, and then it's getting higher and higher every time we play it, and kind of like chain things together better from the citizens and the left and right, and which one you get to pick first to make the best combo out of things.
And it's got a really clever end game objective element as well. There's a lot of roll and rights where you'll go through and you'll unlock certain objectives. In this one, you got 12 cards. They each have an end objective worth up to 3 points, and they also have bonus resources on them. And so each round you're picking one of the 2 that you draw to be your objective, and one to be your resources, and it's got a couple of other things as well. But that's quite clever, because then you end up with you're gradually revealing your objectives as you go through the game, and it gives you things to focus on.
Yeah, had it as well. So check it out. It is the heaviest one out of these, even heavier than the second heaviest was Dinosaur Island Roll and Ride. This is the heaviest one, and we do have how to play video that hopefully helps you and clarify why you want to do certain things, not just the rules. Tarrant's really good like that. I'm totally biased, but Tarrant's really good like that. It's true, hopefully.
And it also plays up to 6, which is nice. A lot of the... I always think one of the benefits of your typical roll and ride is that you can play it with a lot of players. But then the ones that involve dice drafting often bring it back to 4.
Yeah.
So this one plays up to 6, which is nice. And then, of course, there's games here that will play up to as many bits of paper as you have.
But this one here, it plays up to 6 because a lot of the phase you do it simultaneously.
Yes.
That's why. And that's it.
That's it.
We just share our top 10 roll and ride ever, 2021-2022 edition, or early 2022. And share with us your favorite, your top roll and ride, or even maybe some things that we missed that you think it's worth us trying, because we always like to try new games and play new games. And yeah, let us share us, even you want to say hello. I'd love to see your comments and then write back to you as soon as I can. Anything else, Tarrant?
Yeah, I think that's all from me.
That's all for you. All right. So if you enjoy this as well, or you find it useful, it will be very helpful if you could please hit the like button for us and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Click the Meeple, hit the bell so you get notification. We do things like this and full how to play videos, so you'll get the game faster to the table rather than reading the rulebook and so on. I've got short and sweet, fun, kind of like overview video and live playthrough on the weekend and so on. And I'm also on Instagram, so find me there. And that is it all. And we'll see you next time, hopefully.
We'll see you next time. Bye. Everyone.